All right, people, here we go. Welcome in. It is another edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com. He is Ralph Michaels. Don't even know if I'm pointing in the right direction. That would be that direction. He is Ralph Michaels over here, left and right. I am Joe Raineri, and guys, want to welcome you in here on a Tuesday. It is now January the 7th. And quite honestly, guys, I'm not going to lie. I think this is we've had some exciting stuff in college hoops here so far this year, but this is one of the better cards, Ralph. 28, 29 games, I think, on tap here today. And I got to tell you, this is one of the more exciting cards that we have had all year. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Well, from here on in, Joe, this is what we're getting. You know, it's the cream of the crop, the conference games, and it even gets better. You know, my favorite time of the season is when we start getting the revenge matchups later in the year. But you know, we're going to have these type of matchups daily now, and that's what makes exciting. That's what makes college basketball so exciting.
Yeah, it really does. It's great, guys. All big conferences: Big Ten, ACC, Big East, Pac-12, all on display here tonight, and some major duels. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how it all plays out. We'll highlight a couple of the games, of course, some of our feature matchups here. We'll do that in a few. Plus, we'll take a look at the market watch. We'll see exactly some of the movers and shakers here, some of the games that folks in the markets have honed in on. But like we do every show, Ralph, want to take a look, of course, at some of the games the night before, and we start with our upsets last night. And I'm seeing 6 upsets here, Ralph, by at least 2.5 points or more last night.
Yeah, you know, again, it's been about that 11 number the last few days where no one's pulled a massive upset, but you know, when you have a couple of them that are double digits, certainly a long way to go. And Alcorn State, you know, it's one of those teams where, you know, you have Texas Southern, a team that's not very good, laying a lot of points to a team that's very bad. And the team that's very bad, like Alcorn State, shoots well one night and boom, they pull the upset. You know, the Sun Belt, you know, you see back-to-back Sun Belt games there with Troy and Louisiana beating Texas State and App State. So, you know, the Sun Belt is a conference too where there were 3 or 4 different teams with number 1 votes. It's a conference that no one is going to be dominant in, and a conference that, you know, you have to find those spots where you get value playing against a team that perhaps reeled off a few wins.
Yep, and so there were some opportunities last night on the board, guys, to back a couple of dogs. There were also some major, shall we say, Ralph, some great top performances from some of the people here in those games. In fact, I know we saw some names that we don't have a chance a lot of times to talk about, but some guys that definitely balled out last night, especially right at the top there. Malik Wilson, look at that, 5 steals, 3 assists, 9 boards, 30 points. Ralph.
Well, you know, you look at one Sun Belt guy, and then we have a bunch of MEAC guys, and you know, they did the best yesterday. Mondays are going to get a little stronger as the cards progress, but you know, with the exception of next Monday with the national championship. But, right. You know, ULL, a team we talked about, went on the road and pulled the upset against App State. Well, you know, to score 81 points, you need someone to step up, and Malik Wilson did that, 30 points, 9 rebounds.
Yep.
So,
awesome.
You know, back-to-back Bethune guys, 54 points combined there, 19 rebounds for Clattrell Pope and Joe French.
Yep. No, and there's and that's awesome. I mean, guys definitely delivered there last night. Worth certainly keeping an eye on, guys, as the season progresses. And then, of course, we had some of our big covers last night, Ralph, both against the spread and from a total perspective. And just as a side note, I will say that our friends at Army, we did talk about that game yesterday, and it was funny. We had said, you know, the Patriot League's not a league we get a chance to look at often, Ralph, and we were wondering, you know, we did have a chance, I think both of us, to watch Army play, and we said, you know, this is a real team. We haven't been able to follow them, but they were getting almost 8 points last night, and I'll be damned if they didn't cover against Colgate. So shout out to Army getting it done there on the basketball court, Ralph.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, a team we talked about, we didn't talk about, but they went into Buffalo and they played well. So you see that I actually screwed up a column there. So Texas Southern,
Right.
you see as the team that I'm missing the team that actually covered. That would have been Alcorn State that covered by 26 against Texas Southern. And then Coppin State goes down. That was Norfolk State, which should be the number 2 team, that beat Coppin State and covered by 24. And then UL Monroe, the Sun Belt team, they lost to Coastal Carolina, ran them out. Coastal scored the 93 points for the 3 cover. So my apologies on the top. And with the overs, you see that the North Carolina AT&T had 1 overtime. So still an impressive total with that being only 1 overtime game.
Yep. Now, some interesting stuff, of course, and this is a shock, guys. The word you see VA on there, and we talked about this game. West Virginia, my alma mater there, Oklahoma State. Not a game that I thought there would be an awful lot of points in, but what is it with teams with anything near Virginia? Virginia, West Virginia, Ralph, they don't score more than, 50, 60 points in a game. Everything's an under, and I'll be darned if a 41-point under last night tells you everything you need to know about those 2 teams, especially on the road, by the way, for Huggins and his crew there in West Virginia.
Well, I mean, that's why they are the number 4 team in defense efficiency.
Crazy.
And in fact, their you would think Virginia's number 1. They're actually number 1 in the country, holding opponents to 40.1%.
Wow.
And they've played the number 9 schedule, and they've played the number 22 toughest set of offenses. So it's not like you're number 1 in the country in effective field goal percentage against a weak set of foes. There's only 21 teams out of the 353 teams that played a tougher slate of offenses than you have, and that's the type of job you're doing. So when they get that type of defensive pressure, Bob Huggins has elite teams when that happens.
Yeah, no, good stuff from them last night, taking down Oklahoma State in Stillwater there. Very nice job. But again, it was a small slate there, guys, as you can see. The 1 over, 55 points, obviously. Don't need to tell you that little asterisk. Keep an eye out for that. That will definitely signify that even an overtime there. Even that's still a big number, Ralph. 55 over and a 132 line, and we got 2 teams almost hit 100 in 1 overtime. That's impressive.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, there's some games that we've seen multiple overtimes, like that St. Mary's, but, with just the 1 overtime matchup, when your line is 132, right, and you have both teams in the 90s. Oh yeah, that's a pretty comfortable wager.
Yeah, and safe to say, of course, guys, that you won't be. It could be 9 overtimes. I doubt you'll get to 80 points in any Virginia game. They're on the court here tonight, and we'll get to some of those really key matchups that are coming up. Plus, we'll take a look at the market here, see what some of these games and some of these moves might be signaling. But let's start with a couple of trends and angles. A little TNA, Ralph, here today on the board. Plenty of opportunities, plenty of different ways to look at it here. What'd you pull up for us tonight?
Yeah, it's we're looking at these trends and angles, and I want to remind people that just because we're giving these trends and angles, we keep getting more new customers, viewers. I just want people to realize we're not saying just play these angles because we're reading them. Right. It's so you understand how the team plays in the situation they're in. Virginia has been an elite road team going back multiple years. They have covered 78% of their last 41 road games, going 32-9. We talk about defense, and defense travels. Well, yeah, it does. Florida is a team that has struggled offensively, and we're going to talk more about Florida in our situational play in a little bit, Joe. Mm-hmm. Florida's 3-17 over/under on the road. A solid defense, an offense that doesn't click. Indiana State has gone 9-0 over/under on the road. So last 9 games Indiana State has traveled, all 9 have gone under. And Texas A&M 4-18 over/under at home. That's Buzz Williams bringing that Virginia Tech D and that slow-paced offense there, and slow-paced defense where the offense is still learning how to get underway.
All right, two teams that annoyed the living crap out of me on Saturday, Ralph, especially Indiana State, who Last I checked, one of the better three-point shooting teams, certainly, that we have seen this year, and then they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. And, of course, I think they were getting 3.5, 4, something along those lines on the road. And of course, lost by 4. Yes, they lost by 4 or 5 points. That drove me crazy. And I thought Texas A&M couldn't score. Wasn't that the whole point? Like, Texas A&M can't score points because they're offensively one of the most inept teams we have ever seen?
Yeah, well, they have injuries and they had suspensions and they had point guard issues. So, it's not like they scored a lot. They only scored 59.
Yeah, I had the under. It wasn't the problem. The other team scored, and your favorite team scored 900 points in that game.
No, it was 69-59. Arkansas won that game.
Was it where they were 16? Oh, that's right. They were a 2-touchdown favorite, I think. That was the problem.
Yeah. It was the Arkansas side that never pulled away against A&M.
And they were up by 11.5. Like, come on.
It was, it's Eric Musselman. They're playing good D. Their offense has been well, but, they shot 34%. They were 10 of 29 from 3-point land, and just didn't get to the free throw line enough.
No, and that's really that's exactly what it was about. Listen, I thought for sure in that over the weekend they would pull away, but that's something to keep an eye on, guys. The whole Texas A&M situation there, it's going to get worse, I think, before it gets better. So definitely, and it's important to mention too, Ralph. Even this time of year, some teams we take a look at. They go through stretches where, and we mentioned it even the other day, some of those games and some of those teams that 4 and 5, 3, 4, and 5 overtimes. And we said, and we'll talk about some of those games where, we look at them tonight and say that there could be a possible fade on the board because of the schedules and what's been going on here over the weekend.
Yeah, so many of these conferences play those back-to-back road games where you're playing in a couple days. So, we'll see. But, what's the market doing for us today, Joe?
We'll talk a little bit coming up about Ohio State, Maryland, along with Baylor and Texas. But another big marquee matchup here, Ralph, getting a lot of love. Providence, Marquette here tonight. Big East there, 7 o'clock Eastern time. One of the more heavily bet games on the board, Ralph. And some of the biggest line movement we've seen. Marquette opened up as an 8-point favorite, Ralph. 145 is the total. Still holding strong in the total. But I'm seeing 5s now, 5s and 5.5s in favor of still Marquette. So a lot of Providence money coming in there, Ralph. That surprised you in this matchup?
Yeah, I don't agree with the move. Providence has been a struggling road team. They did get a road win at DePaul on Saturday, but not a spot that I like for the Friars.
All right, and I've got to mention it because they annoy me to no end. I can't figure them out. They're right down the road for me. Miami taking on Louisville here, Ralph, tonight in a situation that I thought was also you and I talked about this. I remember Raineri all pissed off to start the year. It's like, why do we got to open up against Louisville? Like, why do I got to do that? And Louisville smoked them here in Miami. Well, now they're at home, Ralph, and a lot of money coming in this way, continuing. Actually, it's interesting enough, the total is rising here. Opened up at 140. I'm seeing 145.5, even 146 in some places, Ralph, which I think is a little interesting due to the fact that I believe the last 5 games between these two have gone over the total. So maybe some people reading that trend and going 140, a little bit too low.
Well, Miami off that horrible home loss to Duke, now traveling. And if he thought he was pissed about playing Louisville in the opener, imagine how pissed he is with Louisville having lost back-to-back games to Kentucky and Florida State. Yep. So, at least he got to open at home against Louisville, but now he's got to go there and play in the Yum Yum Center with a very pissed off team.
Yeah, and they were not happy, by the way, guys. In that last game over the weekend, they were not happy at all. And then, of course, another interesting game, Ralph, that the line is flipped. Talk to me, Penn State, Rutgers in this matchup here tonight, 7 o'clock. It opened up as Rutgers was laying 2 points. The total has come down. It opened up at 142. I'm seeing 139s now, but I'm looking at a 1.5-point swing here as Penn State is laying 1.5 on the road at Rutgers here. Do you agree with that move?
I don't. Penn State, a lot of love going 10-2. I mean, they're 12-2. But, their two losses are games away from home at Ohio State and Mississippi. And their only other true road game was back at Georgetown. When Georgetown, before they had their issues and they had trouble with the players not gelling. So, the RAC to me is a tough place to play. Rutgers has played well at home. They're undefeated at home this year. They beat Seton Hall at home. They beat Wisconsin at home. Those are their two best wins, but I don't agree with that line move either.
All right, so a lot of fun stuff on the card here tonight, guys. We'll get to some of those key matchups, featured games, Ohio State, Maryland. We'll talk Baylor and Texas Tech. And Ralph, as far as a dog on the card here tonight, is there a dog that you happen to be looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to, Joe, I'm going to double dip in this, and
love it.
I'm going to give you a dog, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a situational play. And my dog is on South Carolina. Number one, Florida has been an ATS money burner, and while they've played some good games, this is now a road game. And, the situation, the angles I gave you earlier are team specific that, gives you a focus on how the team is playing. But when we have an actual system, a system means it's any team that falls into that category. And this one makes great sense to me. The ATS record going back to 2012 is 17-36. So if teams are in this position, they've only covered 32% of the time.
Wow.
And it's simply this. You're off a home win in overtime, and you trailed by over 10 points at halftime. That's exactly what Florida had to do in their last game. They fought back. It takes a lot of energy to fight back in the second half to get back after you're trailing by over 10 points at home. Then you're expending extra energy in overtime. You're exalted. You got the win in overtime. You came back, and now you're playing another foe a couple days later, and this on the road. So I agree with the South Carolina side, and also, again, a system that you can write down and use it in the future. It's not too hard to figure it out. You look at overtime games, and if the team at home was in overtime, check what the halftime score was. And if they were down by over 10 at half, it's been a solid play.
Interesting stuff. All right, one of the games that I'm looking at here, and simply, Ralph, I am not sold on him. It is not a big number, but I'm taking Georgia at home, taking on Kentucky, man. I am just not. I think the value lies here with the home dog in Georgia. I am not sold on Kentucky. I don't know who it is. That big win against Louisville, outside of that, I don't get it, man. They're coming off Georgia's coming off of that win against Memphis there. I think finally Tom Crean and company have figured it out, have figured something out there. I think they got some players here right now. I think the defense looks better. I do not trust Kentucky at home, much less on the road, and laying points in this spot. I think Georgia's got a great opportunity here as a home dog tonight.
Joe, what year are we in?
2020. That's right.
What month are we in?
January.
What date are we in?
I think it's the 7th.
Okay. The season started Tuesday, November 5th.
Right.
So that's over 2 months.
That's correct.
This is Kentucky's first road game.
I didn't even see that. Really?
Yeah.
It's great. Weren't they? But didn't they had neutral site games or no?
Two neutral sites, and they got blown out against Utah, and they got blown out against Ohio State.
And that was the one I was most recently thinking about, was the one in Vegas out by you in the T-Mobile Arena. But so this is their first true road game? Oh, then, guys, Georgia, please. I mean, holy crap. I mean, I like them because I don't trust them at all. I do think Georgia has actually turned a corner. I actually like this Georgia team, but that you solidified it for me, Ralph. Appreciate that very much. I mean, am I crazy, and now you add on first road game?
Yeah, and you got to add, if you're going to watch the game tonight, the number one is you've got Tom Crean. So, Crean is now in his second season here. He took over a beleaguered Georgia program. Yep. They were 11-21 last year, and they weren't competitive. So Cree now is in the second year of his systems.
Yep.
And what does he do? He snags a top 5 recruit, gets him to stay home, and Anthony Edwards. They now have the offense to match, to be able to compete with the big teams, and that's the difference. Anthony Edwards will be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft next year. So when you're talking Georgia and Kentucky, I don't know the last time you can say that the better player on the court was on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
But for the first time in probably a decade, 2 decades, Ashton Hagens is awesome, and you know what? They both may be high picks, but realistically, they finally have someone to match them talent-wise, and that'll be the difference.
Yeah, they're really good off the glass, too, guys, rebounding, and I do believe Ken Palm's got them top, I think, 64 or 65, somewhere in that ballpark there. So I like, and they're 10-3 already on the season, guys. This is, of course, their first SEC game of the year. Well, but anytime you're top 65 in Ken Palm, at least people are starting to notice you.
Yeah, obviously they've lost to the best opponents they faced.
Right.
But all 3 were away from home.
Right.
They lost to Dayton and Michigan State in a neutral setting, and they went to Arizona State and lost. And you're a young team, and they got blown out away, and that's fine. I mean, that happens with a young team. Often is you start to play well at home. Knocking off SMU in 2 overtimes was a good win, and they're off an away win in Memphis, which is a big deal last Saturday. Going into Memphis and winning, even without Wiseman at Memphis, it's still a solid win.
I thought that was impressive. And by the way, last 4 games between these two have gone under the total. If you guys are keeping track, under the total sits at it's been rising. Opened up at 139. I'm seeing 142. The last 4 have gone under. How about situationally, Ralph? We've talked a lot, of course, about some of these. You mentioned Florida there. Is there any sort of revenge or anything else that we should know about here before we dive into these matchups?
Nope. I just wanted to give them the system because it's something they'll be able to use in the future, and wanted the emphasis on that. So that was the only situational play for today.
All right, let's take a look at some of these marquee matchups here. 2 on the card that we singled out, guys. 2 games that I think you'll be interested in probably watching. A lot of eyes on tonight, and we'll start, of course, in the Big Ten, big marquee battle. Ohio State visiting Maryland here, Ralph. And the Buckeyes, what can you say? They were stunned, to say the least, by Wisconsin last Friday. Their second straight loss. They fell to West Virginia just before New Year's. And meanwhile, Maryland, they rebounded from a pair of losses in December. They have wins over, obviously, mid-major Bryant and Indiana last weekend. So this is an interesting matchup here. I'm looking at Ohio State getting 3 on the road, total 135 in this one. How do you see it working out?
I can't, I would have played on Maryland if Ohio State was off a win against Wisconsin. But off back-to-back losses, I just can't fade Ohio State in that role. But I will say this. Their turnover mark is horrendous. They are 340 in turnovers, and those are the non-steal turnovers that you're just making stupid mistakes. And I can't back a team on the road in this type of line situation with a team that makes that many turnovers. They were horrendous against Minnesota on the road. West Virginia, they played up in Cleveland. Then at home against Wisconsin, the same thing. So to me, I like the under. You have 2 elite defenses. 2 top 15 defenses. You're only going to have that matchup a couple times a year. So lean with the under.
Yeah, the under is probably not a bad way to go in this matchup here. I would look at the not only the full game on. I like the first half under there too, Ralph. Given that I think we're dealing with 2 of the better defenses here in the Big Ten. I think there's an opportunity here to watch these. Little on the road, like you said, though, coming off the loss. Might be a little tight for both of these teams here. Big matchup, first Big Ten big matchup. Under 63 and a half might not be a bad play either.
No argument with that.
Yeah. And by the way, very stingy in the first half. Only 29 points at home given up on average by Maryland. So they've stepped it up at home. And that leads us, of course, to the Big 12, Ralph, the other big matchup here tonight. Texas Tech taking on Baylor. And what can you say about Tech? Beard and company have finally starting to put it together there. They dismantled Oklahoma State. They handed Louisville their first loss at the Garden, at Madison Square Garden. They're 6-7 against the number, Ralph, but 5-3 when Ramsey's in the lineup. Baylor, there are still people doubting Baylor. 7-5 against the number this year. They're 11-1 total. They've won their last 10, but there are still a lot of people doubting that Baylor is the real deal, much like their football program here. What do you like in this matchup here as they are getting 3 points tonight at Texas Tech?
Well, Baylor's a team that if they were at home, I would like them here. But, you have two underclassmen at guards, a pair of sophomores, and they've only played one other road game, and that was Coastal Carolina. And that is in a really Coastal Carolina right outside of Myrtle Beach, and you're playing in a gymnasium type situation. It was a tournament, but Coastal Carolina was hosting the tournament. And while they won that game, it concerns me that now they're playing their first Power 5 game on the road with two underclassmen. I thought Texas Tech was going to be back, but you look at it and, in their last 8 games, losses to Iowa, Creighton, and DePaul. Your win was against Louisville. We've seen Louisville have a few losses and drop down. And then Southern Miss, Utah, Grand Valley, Bakersfield. And then their win against Oklahoma State. We saw Oklahoma State last night, which makes me think maybe Texas Tech isn't as good as well. My heart still says Baylor is the better team. It's a game that I'm going to enjoy watching. My first instinct anytime you have a Baylor game is over. But, Baylor has an elite defense, but they're not into 300s with tempos. They're much closer to 200. And Texas Tech this year with Beard is actually running the ball a little bit more. So it's not that slow-paced game that we had in the past, I don't believe. And to me, again, Baylor passes the eye test better than Texas Tech right now.
Yeah, listen, I mean, their only loss, guys, started out against Washington in Alaska, I think it was, in a neutral site game to start the year. But wins over Villanova, Arizona, Butler, and then they opened the Big 12 with crushing Texas there and Shaka Smart. Baylor's the number, 4 team in the country, I think, here for a reason, Ralph. I'm with you. The eye test definitely passes. Some of the numbers to go along with this, too. The Bears are 4-0 against the number in their last 4 on the road. They're also 5-1 against the number in their last 6 when taking on teams with winning records. So Texas Tech, 2-6 against the number in their last 8 overall. 1-4 against the number in their last 5 coming off a win. I will say this, that the home team, it appears, I think, has won, if I'm not mistaken, have won 5 straight against the number. Home teams in this series, but I got to lean Baylor in this one, too, especially noting the underdog. 5-2 in the last 7 meetings between these two teams. I'll take Baylor. I trust what I'm seeing with Baylor in this spot. And this will go a long way, Ralph, to proving them to be in that upper echelon if they can pull this off on the road.
Let me, part of the reason, again, I like Baylor more, but I can't back them or I'm not going to bet them, is that when you look at Texas Tech, I mean, it's very, very important to remember the Iowa loss, the Creighton loss, the DePaul loss, and then the Louisville win and Southern Miss win were all without their best player, Jamius Ramsey.
Right.
He is back. He is healthy.
Yep.
He has been back the last 3 games, and they have been a much different team batting Oklahoma State. So that's the situation you're looking at.
Yep.
You got your best player back. You're now healthy. Did they look that good against Oklahoma State? And is West Virginia that good? Or is Oklahoma State down a couple notches after those 2 losses? But, Jamius Ramsey back and healthy is the reason Baylor is not on my card, and I'm not betting them. Because, again, you do have the best player on the court at home laying less than a couple field goals.
I'm going to keep an eye on Jared Butler for for Baylor, as well as his playing partner there, Teague, Maceo Teague, both averaging around 16, 17 points a game. They've been rock steady all year. Two kids going up against Ramsey. It's going to be very interesting to see how this goes out. One of the more better games I'm going to see here on the card tonight. I'll throw one other one. I don't know if you got to play on it, Ralph, or not, but do you got a feel for the Big East here in Creighton and Villanova? Because I'm leaning the over in this one, man. 148 and a half. I just feel like there's going to be some points in this matchup here between these two teams.
Yeah, I do. I like the home team. I think that again, another situation with the traveling, there's no question I'm back in the home team.
You're going to go, yeah. I just think this is going to be a big seesaw battle here. It's only 1.5 the spread here, guys, but don't be surprised if this gets to 160, no issue. All right, best bet time here, Ralph. Talk to me. What are you looking at on the card here tonight? Where are you leaning?
I'm not talking limbo, Joe, but how low can you go?
Oh,
and
no. I know. Let me guess.
I gave this out to my customers.
Did you?
This is an actual play, and it's Virginia under the first half, and the number is 52. Yes. So
wait, that sounded like you said 52. Is that right?
Yeah, 52. So if you ever thought you were going to bet unders and you hate watching unders, try watching a first half under with a total of 52. And I got it as I'm watching the game. If someone hits a 3, I'm pulling whatever left of my hair out because a 3-pointer, you can't hit a 3-pointer. The total's 52.
I love
it. It looks ugly now, and it's a bitch to watch, but. We'll see. BC is a team that's playing good defense,
right.
Struggles on offense.
Yep.
Virginia Virginia's proven that they could be an elite defense no matter what, and they're in no hurry. They're the combination that they're the number one team in defense as far as efficiency goes.
Right.
And they're the 345th team as far as tempo. They're probably closer to 380. The drop off from them to number. The thing when you have a number 1 or a number 353,
right,
is you don't know how much more of a gap there should be. You have a small gap between this, and this, and this. If you look at 353 and 352, there's a much bigger gap that I would say they're probably closer to 375 or 380, even though there's 353 teams. Just like saying if you're the number 1 team, well, how much better are you than number 2? There's no quantifiable number there.
Right. And listen, Tony, but this is a flawed team, this Virginia team this year, Ralph. But the one thing we know, and it's hard to believe, I mean, they're giving up 47 points per game here, guys. I think that's the best in the country. They're going to deliver, and teams like a Boston College who like to run, but they can't rebound, and you ain't rebounding against Virginia, so it kind of throws them out of rhythm when you have these kinds of very slow pace, slow it down. It gets teams that require rhythm, up-tempo teams. They find it very difficult, Ralph, to be able to put the ball in the basket. It's even harder for a team that doesn't shoot all that well to begin with.
Absolutely, no question.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun game tonight. To me, guys, best bet. I said it earlier. I'll double dip. Georgia at home taking on Kentucky. I expect them to win this game, first road game, like Ralph pointed out, for Kentucky. I don't trust them. It's not the same old, same old. I think that Memphis win really turned the corner for Georgia, so I'm backing them. But plays are available, guys. WagerTalk.com. You want to head on over there. Ralph's got some plays up there tonight. Of course, he'll have plays up tomorrow. All you have to do is get over to WagerTalk.com, guys, right now. Head over to Cal Sports page. Get yourself ready. It's going to be a great night of college hoops, Ralph. So we'll look forward to breaking it all down again tomorrow, and then looking forward another round of games tomorrow, and it's just going to keep getting better and better from here, my friend.
Joe, talk to you in 23, bud.
23 it is, guys. Good luck with your plays. Get to WagerTalk.com today. Good luck.